Hey everybody, Sketch Card Hive here, and I'm here with two amazing people, Jake and David. How's it going? How you guys been?
Good, good. Lovely, lovely. We're doing fantastic. I mean, it's masterpieces time, so it's fun. There's a lot's going on.
So much going on. So, if you don't know, these two people are very much OGs of the hobby. I've been friends with them for a long time, but they're also two amazing people who've inspired my collection, my character collecting for Silver Surfer. I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you so you can get an idea of who they are, and we're just following the series of character collectors again, and I'm trying to get everybody who I feel is very much on top of their game, been here for a long time, can give actual true words of wisdom, and have been in the game long enough that they understand what they're looking at, what they're thinking about, and are the most create at collecting their character, right? And I'm so excited for everybody to meet them. Let's start with you, Jake. Sorry. And let's go ahead and start. Give me a little bit of backstory. What brought you into this, and how long you've been collecting?
Yeah, so I mean, I was born in '89. Dave was born in '88. So we've been collecting probably since like mid or late '90s. Our dad kind of got us into cards. He would give us like sports factory sets and stuff, and then we'd go to a couple. Back then you could go to brick and mortar stores and stuff. Like I have memories of where you could get Flair Marvel packs out of like almost like a sticker machine. If you remember those, like at Walmart, but you could get
Yes.
a pack of cards out at this one card store. Um, and I think, yeah, our dad was just a collector, so he would get us into stuff. So did some sports cards like really early on, but for me, I would say like my favorite sets at the beginning were like '94 Fleer Ultra X-Men, and then I think it's the '91 Marvel Universe. It's not the one that like the boom like was going crazy. That was like the
Yeah.
first. It was I think the second one. I just love the border design, like that slight tannish border.
And it has those lines in it
Yeah.
as well. I love that.
And being able to just look at the back of the card for the information and everything on it.
Yes.
I opened a lot of it, and those packs were that like thin kind of like it wasn't wax, but it was like very unique. Like nothing was
Not crinkly.
no.
It was like tissue paper plastic. It
Yeah,
was
it
so
was very
weird. Yeah.
very very strange, and it was just so much fun to open. So those were like sort of my founding stuff, and read a lot of comic books. Still have almost all our stuff. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then Magneto is my main character. Now I don't. I have been. I'm not like you guys where you do the super collecting of everything. I do.
Jake is the sane one of the group, just so everybody's aware. He's the one with common sense. Dave and I are totally on the reservation. So off the reservation, really.
Yeah, just different times over the years. Like I just couldn't quite get into it. And then I latched on to sketch cards. I pulled one of those repeat ones out of Marvel Legends because that was another set I really liked. And I got one of those like Iron Man sketches where the artist did 100 of them or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was the coolest thing. So then when we got back into collecting Marvel and whenever Greatest Battles came out, it was like 2012, I think.
2012.
I just was all in sketches. That's all I cared about. Nothing. So I just committed. So Magneto only sketches. Any good Magneto card I ever pulled, I've sold it just because I'd rather have sketches of Magneto or other characters. And it's kind of helped keep it in check because I realized over the last month or so, I enjoy opening cards, I think, just as much as collecting cards. So I've been kind of switching back toward the accepting I just got to spend more to have that fun. And I've already got such a big collection, it sort of works out.
I think it's great, man. I love your taste in sketch cards, and we've talked about this before. We've actually recorded this episode, and we tried to salvage it, but I messed up on the audio, and the recording actually kind of got delayed. So we're having this conversation again, but there's so many details I didn't get the first round, which is and there's going to be tons of stuff I'm going to say too that I forgot to ask on the first round too. So it's really good that we're doing this again. But so crazy it was Marvel Legends because Marvel Legends sketch cards are so unique. The custom covers and they're tiered. They're very fascinating sketch cards. I think Greatest Battles is an amazing set to collect sketch cards from. I don't think people realize how awesomely designed they were because they didn't have the square that went around the card in uniform. They actually extended to the second
Yeah.
card. Yeah. And there's so many amazing artists and so many amazing pairings for greatest battles. Actually, it's kind of an amazing set for sketches. Honestly,
Yeah, and at the time, I think Greatest Battles boxes were like $80, and it was
cheap.
like Bronze Age or other stuff that was out around that time, or like X-Men Archives. They'd be like 70ish. So it was like, well, for an extra 10, $20, you get a puzzle sketch. So I was like, give me more sketches.
Yeah.
Where I know like some people like to collect just the single sketches. I want the biggest, the most I can see. It's like box topper stuff. Like that's my favorite.
The 5x7s, the like box topper stuff. I mean, what was it? Dangerous Divas, right? Where you got those really big ones. Was that it? That's crazy stuff.
And then
Um,
Premiere came out, like that was so much fun with all the different
that's
options.
the same year too, 2012. So you
Yeah,
have three panel, two panel, and there's a new Premiere set coming out soon. This video will probably go up tomorrow. We're recording it on the 25th. It either goes up later tonight or early tomorrow. But Premiere's coming out soon, and you guys have amazing sketches from Premiere. But so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But so Dave. So Dave is well. I'm gonna let Dave say it because Dave is as crazy as I am. Jake's close, but Dave is crazier or
Yeah.
as crazy as me.
First and foremost, I mean, I think it's offensive that it's Jake and Dave Glasbrenner, that Jake went first. I am the oldest.
You are the oldest. I feel bad. I did this before, and I
Yeah.
did it again on purpose
No,
because
before it
I
was,
thought it'd
you
be
know,
funny.
I could live with it. Now it feels personal.
Right?
But
Yeah. No, it's definitely an attack for sure.
Not to get too far off track, but I technically have a signed dollar bill from Dave that says "Dad loved Jake best."
okay,
So it was a bet thing that we did, and I made him have to sign that, where
Well,
Dave wrote "Dad loved Jake best." So yeah, it was number one.
well, Jake has to go first. Then again, like, you know what, Dave? Do me a favor. Get up. Leave the room. Jake's video is going to go first, and then no, go with Dave. I want to hear from you, Dave. Talk to me.
okay. So yeah, obviously I've been collecting about as long as him, except for a little bit longer. I'm older, but no, we've been collecting together pretty much all our lives. As Jake said, when we were born, our dad started buying us a factory set of baseball cards every year since we were born. So I have one for '88, and then there was two starting at '89 on, um,
Wow.
and and so that sort of started things. And we were into sports as much as Marvel in the early days, and then somewhere along the way. Sports became insane, really expensive, which feels odd to say right now
Yeah.
with what's happened with Marvel. But so we sort of transitioned more heavily to Marvel. But my love really started with of my main character, which is Beast. Started with the '90s X-Men animated cartoon, right? I had known Beast before that from comics, but it was really how eloquent and philosophical and just as a scientist. And so Beast is a geneticist. So I actually became a geneticist because my character. So I'm trying to take it to that level, which I assume, Fausto, you have picked up surfing.
I've already started. I'm
Good, good.
I'm hanging 10, bro. I'm figuring it out.
And so Beast always just really spoke to me. And I found that he spoke to me both on what he said and everything of just as I said, his eloquence and ability to speak and quote different poetry and books and just really be knowledgeable. But I also found I was really drawn to like the brightness of his color, right? The bright blue. It found that that's very visually appealing to me. And I actually found when I go to art exhibits or different things, I just like blue. And so I think it just all mashed up together. And so I've been character collecting beasts for a long time, and then it became a condition once really we started with like greatest battles and everything, and going heavy. Because in the old days, it was relatively easy to be a character collector, right? There were few cards. There weren't numbered cards. There weren't sketch cards. There were, you could get a full collection, and then they started following the sports model, which I actually enjoyed because it gave me something rare to hunt after and to go after. So I've been collecting for a long time ever since. But the irony is, long ago, I sort of discovered that I'm very busy, and I'm also very bad with social media and like replying and keeping up with stuff. And Jake is not, and so uh, often people forget whether I'm a beast collector or Jake, because if you've dealt with something with beasts with us, you most often have dealt with Jake. and then I end up, I flip the bill or different things unless it's a gift. And so it's kind of funny. Like I am a Beast collector, but I have not procured a lot of the items because Jake's been so fantastic at doing that.
Jake is a killer. I don't think people realize this, but Jake, the amount of times I've seen Jake find things, and I hunt for things. I mean, you guys know
Oh
how
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm crazy. Like I go hard on stuff. Like I have a whole thing that I do. Jake, I don't even know. It's like the secret sauce. Like I have no idea how it's done. I have no idea how he figures it out. But the amount of things I've seen this man find it's outstanding to me. It's impressive.
I think he just puts like dims the lights, puts on classical music, like a hat and a monocle and a smoking pipe, and just
There's
like,
a star on your floor somewhere that
yeah,
he drew in chalk, and there's like candles. There's something going on there,
yeah.
supernatural
But no,
level things.
deep research, and a lot of the key is memory of
Yeah,
people and relationships, and like, oh yeah, this person mentioned 6 years ago that they collected certain type of set. I wonder if they might have something, right? So like
yeah,
it's that kind of eye for detail.
yeah.
But yeah, Beast is my guy. Um, Dr. Hank or Henry McCoy, depending on
I love
the
that.
universe here.
I love that. I think it's great. I mean, to give people a little idea. So we've spoken a little bit about this. I'll have some cards going up on the screen because this is pre-recorded, there will be a live. You guys met the Deadpool collector. These are the Beast collectors. An amazing sketch card collector, Magneto as well. I mean, crazy stuff. And with sketch cards, I think character collecting actually really started in 97, 98. And
Hmm.
that, you know what I mean, with like
Yeah,
sketch collectors, where they would like instead of doing an artist, they were like, you know what, let me get a character from that every artist drew, and then and that's why those are so hard to find because they're in those type of collections. And then character collecting that Dave and I are really onto here probably didn't start when Dave. I've been trying to think about that, like when it started becoming a little more kind of like getting every card throughout the series, rainbows, one of ones, plates, because that's Dave's collections insane, and we'll talk about it and show some stuff. But
I
it's
feel
pretty,
like it was the resurgence of masterpieces with Jusco,
yeah,
2016,
that's a good idea.
because there were, you have Marvel Beginnings, and
Yep.
you have some older sets but it wasn't really that it gained traction because it was I think 2016 is when it changed things. You had such beautiful artwork, people were very passionate about it, and so I think that's when I noticed a bigger surgence of, oh hey, I am X collector.
Yeah.
But that's also the emergence of some of the Facebook groups, some of the communities, and so it could
Yeah.
just be a bias, right? That we
Yeah.
think that that's when it is, but just that's when the community started really coming together. No longer were the days of Blowout or Scoundrel. I think before that,
Yeah.
So
It felt like blowout forums was kind of like you would have to go into a thread to see if someone's was collecting something. They'd be
yeah,
like looking for X characters. And
yes,
unless you had that character, you wouldn't really stop in and look. And
hmm,
then Facebook came about and it became like, hey, I'm collecting this character. Anybody see this card? And you would see pictures of their collections. You know what I mean? Immediately. Like it wasn't like you had to go you didn't have to have an interest in that character to pursue it. It's almost like it presented itself to you. And I think that start like you said, it was the 16, the rainbowing, you know what I mean? Because to rainbow and to collect numbered cards, you're looking at really Marvel Universe and Marvel 75th. You know what I mean? Exquisite gems. You're looking at a lot of those things. Beginnings was interesting because Beginnings doesn't have numbered cards, but has
yeah.
the classic
And
the classic covers.
I think the first numbered was Greatest Battles, the gold foil number 99.
The battling or whatever, the
Yeah.
verses.
So
Yeah,
yeah, essentially Greatest Battles from Rittenhouse. Every base card had a number to 99 gold,
Oh,
and it was one per box.
yeah, that's right. And then you had Premiere, which had everything numbered, and then there were numbered cards. The first number cards was '07 or something like that, and it was the Spider-Man ones with the covers that are signed by John Romita,
Yeah.
Stan Lee, or
oh,
whatever.
that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
That's such an off one because they did it that time, and then it kind of like vanished doing numbered
Yeah.
cards for a while, and then it really popped up back again in 2012 type of thing. And then the first printing plates for Marvel cards that were pack inserted instead of just production proofs was Beginnings, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think you're
which
right.
is crazy. So character collecting, right? So, Dave, what are some of the crazy? Well, Jake and Dave, because they really did this together.
Yeah.
What are some? What was? Give me some big highlights here. Like,
I
walk
mean,
me through some crazy things.
yeah, I think the biggest highlight, and if I just kind of set sketches aside, uh,
Yeah.
the Marvel masterpieces in general. So 2016, I have 7 of the 8 printing plates and the red spectrum from Just Go. So I'm missing one plate that never has popped up, and that was, I don't know. It feels like 1,000 hours of Jake's life. Refreshing, but it was also at a time that most of those cards I was able to get for very affordable prices on eBay. It was just when ePack was starting, and so I was very fortunate in that time, as I was also just in grad school, so I wasn't really flush with cash.
You
So
and I were doing the same thing.
so that was very big. And then 2018, I have every one of one possible for Beast. So it's all 8 plates, the red spectrum, and the pack inserted preliminary art redemption for Beast. I mean, I have the signatures too, but those are numbered to 10.
So, just to put this in perspective, and I said this in the last time we tried to record this, I had technical difficulties on my end. That means that no one can build a printing plate collection of 2018.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of collections like that where certain plates are missing, or someone has all 4, or someone has 2. You know what I mean? Where printing plate collections of a set are completely impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's those kind of collections where you're like, no other Beast collector could have a printing plate from 2018.
Correct.
It's a crazy, crazy, amazing accomplishment to have 8 and the one of one on top of that. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, it
Um,
just was incredible work on Jake's part. I don't know if you were talking.
That was probably the hardest, was 2018, because a few people were buying some of the things, but they didn't actually want it. I think
Yep.
they knew what I/Dave was doing, and I had to pay up for a little bit. And then really it was just the last holdout because somebody had a full set of plates. And I worked on that person for so long, with you too. And then eventually I think we offered so much money that he was like, well, maybe if I break this up, I can get a car and sell the whole set. And then that was just the first domino for everybody and get that
I
going.
remember that. I remember that so well. I don't want to mention the person's name, but I remember that all falling into place. It had been so long. It had been such a roller coaster ride because it was just a lot of work on your end, and from what I was a part of, it was a lot of talking, a lot of having conversations.
And it's funny, it sticks out in my mind so much. So it was on eBay for bidding. It was a blue printing plate.
Yeah.
And I remember I was teaching a lab for genetics or something, and I couldn't believe how high it was going, and I was losing, and I lost, and it haunted me for years and years. And eventually we were able to secure it back. But that was the switch that all of a sudden someone else might want something as much as me.
Yeah.
But I had paid attention to who bought it and the eBay username, then eventually figured out who that eBay username belonged to, and then just sort of worked on them over the years.
Having the investigation work as you go. Yeah. I mean, that was, I don't think people realize how much of a little black book you got to keep to know, because it's impossible to know. A lot of work there, and I think people are starting to realize it now because there are more people collecting, and there are more character collectors kind of coming out of the woodworks, and people are trying to make those decisions because sets are getting impossible to make, cards are very expensive, and I think people are making creative compromises to how to collect, which is my favorite part of the hobby, is the creativeness of collecting it. So you have plates and you have every beast card. So there are some amazing other beast cards you have that completely blow me away that you have them. In your time collecting beast, and both of you, so for Jake it would be what was your favorite acquisition on Dave's behalf, and for Dave, what's a card that you just still can't believe you have in your collection, type of thing. And since Jake is not the oldest, but I'll ask him to go first.
I mean, in terms of, I definitely do get. I think I really do think I have acquired more Beast cards than Dave has.
Correct.
I have bought more, given as gifts, or this. I think for me, the biggest memory I will ever have that I love the most was the yellow printing plate for 2016, because it finished the rainbow. at the time.
Wow.
It finished the rainbow, and I made Dave a whole custom box,
Mm-hmm.
and I made like a sell sheet and printed it in like in Illustrator and
Oh,
Photoshop. And so it was like this custom box where it was all buybacks. So it was each tier had different stuff, and then the bottom tier was the plate. So like I'll just always like remember that, and just the rush of seeing it on eBay, buying it, and getting it.
And then I never saw it.
So then I was able to keep it a secret, and here's
That's
like this
amazing.
Christmas gift thing. So that's my favorite
Yeah.
memory for beast hunting.
And that was my first rainbow, because I think that was all the what ifs. So I
Yeah.
had all 4 what ifs, and so that was my first like completion. Like you have all 4 of a card.
That's a
You know?
huge accomplishment for A. I just want to say, Jake, you're a good brother. I think a lot of I'm so happy. I love hearing about happy siblings and good family stuff because life is hard and it doesn't always happen that way. And it's just really nice to hear that. And I think it's nice. I'm sentimental like that. B, I just want to say you're the best gift giver I've ever met.
Yeah.
So kudos to you. Uh, and C, I just want to say like that is a huge accomplishment. I remember Dave and I geeking out because I got my 4 base surfers.
Yeah.
And it was after you, for sure after you, but we were in it together in a little bit, all 3 of us. Like we've talked about it. We had conversations about this happening eventually. And Dave kind of talked about a little bit before what that's like one of the biggest boxes for a master character collector to click is to have 4 printing plates all matching where that's the creation of the card or the spring plates. And also, I recently had a conversation with someone, a good friend of ours, Melfi Will. He's
Yeah.
very nice, super cool guy. And he was asking me, he was like, so are the printing plates real? And we've had this conversation in the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had this conversation in the group before. Where are they a manufactured rarity? Is it just something they created for the set? Just to be clear, from my conversations with UD, and I believe what you guys have heard as well, is that they are in fact real. The reason they're not reversed is because they don't use the printing method that way.
Correct.
And the second thing is the corners are actually cut for insurance liable purposes because they have to file down those cuts on the circle. So they actually have to cut the plate in order to insert them into the box because it's actually a very sharp metal.
Correct. Yeah, you get tetanus and different things. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So just people know printing plates are real. And I know people are not sure about printing plates because they're not collected in sports or whatever. I don't do sports heavily. You guys might know this better. I'm sure you guys know this better than I do.
I don't know if printing plates are big or not. I feel like I've seen stuff, but I haven't really.
They started doing like printing plate autos, printing plate patches. They started like destroying the plate, like cutting out some metal to put like a patch or different things in it.
Oh, interesting.
Or they'll put a sticker auto on it. I mean, Star Wars has been doing that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it is. I like it in Marvel. I'm a huge
Yeah.
fan of printing plates.
Oh,
personally.
same. It's one of my favorite inserts.
And once you have a bunch, it really makes for a nice display, right? Because you can just pick
You
your
figure it out.
colors, and then it just all goes down. And then there's something cathartic that after months or years, you're able to just put the missing piece in, right? The missing color, and it's really nice. Actually, this past year, I think I've gotten the most printing plates that I've had luck just in a long time.
Do you have any
Wow.
completed rainbows?
Yes, I have 2 of the years of Marvel Annual completed.
Okay.
That's nice.
I now have 3 of the 4 booklets from X-Men Metal and Spider-Man Metal.
Wow.
All
Beast.
thanks to Jake.
You guys are a rocking team, dude. That's crazy. So now people have an idea of what when I talk about character collecting, and Dave has all the other crazy stuff as well, autos, Toy Biz, all that kind of good stuff. Let's gear over into sketch cards a little bit here, because both of you, outside of the Beast Collector, both of you are very widely known as two really key collectors in sketch cards because of your collection and because of your eye for art and your eye for artists. And you guys have done such a good job on building those collections that you guys have shared pictures of me. I haven't seen it all, obviously, but I'm always just like, I talk with Matt Fuller and they're like, those guys have great sketch. You know what I mean? Like just amazing stuff. So it's a huge accomplishment. What is some of the things you guys do when you look at sketch cards? What are some things that jump out at you? What do you get excited about? We had a really funny moment when we first tried recording this. So hopefully we'll remember a little bit about it in a
Yeah.
second. But I just want to hear the answers because I think it'd be so great for other people to hear them as well.
I mean, at the beginning, it was things were cheap on eBay. We would just buy any characters, like, oh, it was $20, and then it'd be like good Christmas gifts, like would give Dave Carnage or Sentry or any. It was like, oh, that's a neat card. Bidding you get for $15. It was like, this is so cheap. But then for me, I don't, outside of the character, there's just something that grabs my eye with certain artists. So like Alex Magno was always a favorite of mine. There's just something about it that just jumps off the page to me, like the extra detail.
Yeah.
And there seems to be some like emotion to it. And then, I guess it's hard to like describe. It's just there's something that grabs me. And then there's different styles that I like. Like I do like Katie Cook, and I don't think he ever. No, he did Marvel early on. Jeff Victor does a good sort of chibi style.
Oh wow! Yeah.
I have a Ghost Rider. I think Ghost Rider is the only Marvel one I have. I have a bunch of DC where it's like
that's where I know it. I was like, okay. Cool.
He has some in. Gosh, I don't know. It's one of those Marvel sets where they're mostly black and white, but then occasionally they're in color, and they'll go for like quite a bit. I don't know if it's Marvel Masterpieces or if it's a Marvel Beginnings. Gosh, I wish I had one like on hand to show.
Might be a Marvel Masterpiece. Maybe
one of the early Masterpieces. Because I don't really have many from those. Because I go for like color sketches, but then occasionally something will grab my eye. Like there was a Daredevil sketch, which I think is what you're hitting at. The funny thing, this Weapon X sketch popped up from Fleer Retro, and I was like, "What? Oh man, that really grabs my attention."
Right.
But it's just so expensive being a popular character.
Yeah.
And then the Daredevil popped up, and I went, "Wow, that's just like really great." So then I just went to, and I thought this is kind of expensive for like black and white. And I was like, you know what? This is really unique. It gives me joy. And I just snagged it, which was then funny. You were talking about doing the exact same thing.
We had the same. So Jake, I feel like what's great about Marvel, and when you become really entrenched in the community, is that you realize people are looking at the same things you're looking at.
Yeah.
It's so you all of a sudden you'll be on eBay. At least I will. I'll be on eBay at one point, and I'll see something. I'll be like, Jake's looking at it, or like Matt's looking at it, or someone's looking at this.
100%.
I guarantee you, it's the funniest. It happens all the time. And I saw that Daredevil, and I showed it to Emily, and I looked at it, and I was like, I knew the artist. Like I always wanted a surfer from the artist, and I looked at the Daredevil, and I was like, damn, that's so good. That's such a good concept. It's simple, but it's really magnetic and different. And I was like, I know I should just pick this up. And I literally had, and then it disappeared. And I was like, I know one of these guys got. I like knew it. I knew it instantly because I was like, this kind of stuff. And this is the good thing about the hobby. And you hear a lot about pump, hype, all this kind of stupid stuff. The truth is, like, there are a lot of people out there that are true fans of this stuff, and that's why it disappears. It is not to like we come back on eBay. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I've had so many occurrences where I looked at something I thought was so cool and it was gone forever. Like years, it's never repopped up, and you're just like, someone's not investing. That is literally someone's binder. That's someone's little private collection oasis of this character, artist, or type of sketch card. And I really do 100% believe I've met them. I've met them around. They don't do any social media, and they stay completely off the grid. I don't think people realize that's a huge component of the hobby and why it's difficult to obtain like true rarity and truly distinguishable sketch cards. Truly distinguished sketch cards, I should say.
Well, it's like our lifelong friend I've mentioned you a couple times, Keith.
Yeah.
No social media accounts. And he has this, he collects Rick and Morty with us for sketches. He's got like a very consolidated collection of some Star Wars stuff. Silver, some like he likes was it Maestro, like the Hulk with the
nice with the beard. Yeah.
He likes that.
Mean, Keith, he has a Bob Larkin three or four panel from Premiere that he bought because it had Magneto, Beast, and Storm, which is my character, his character, and his wife's character, Storm. And so he's like, oh, this represents my family, essentially, like, and so he just has a Larkin, but he's not on any social media. You will never see it again. Like,
what a beast! Like, that's so crazy to me. Like, I hear about those cards, and you just wonder where stuff is. When stuff looks good and is a one of one. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't always disappear into a collector's hands or a celebrity's hands. It disappears into someone who just coincidentally was also looking, and that's something they enjoy. It's weird. It's weird. I think, and it's funny with with masterpieces coming out, and I want to talk a little bit about that
Sure.
because that's the current hunt for everybody in this room, and which is why it's on the thumbnail because I thought you guys enjoy that. But people realize when they see a card out of 25. Maybe I shouldn't say this now that I'm thinking about it because it might be misconstrued. So I'll say it differently. Um, it's interesting to have a new set come out and to have gone through this process before.
Hmm.
How has that changed your perspective? I mean, I think this is like you guys were really heavily 2016.
Yeah.
I was heavy to 2016, but I was just also finishing up the beginnings classic covers,
Uh,
you know, signed by Stan Lee, Joe Cena, like the really hard ones to find from that guy in Australia, a buddy of ours.
yeah.
Um, like those are impossible. I had to fork over a lot of money for those, and I was also grabbing printing plates and having to pay quite a bit of money because they're printing plates. And I got in my head that a character collector, or at least at the level that I want to be, you know what I mean, as a character collector, that plates are a very big important factor to my collection, right? Um, and it's part of this channel is to show people how people collect differently and some of the decisions they make. That I didn't grab the auto. I should have grabbed the auto. You know what I mean? The red was there. I missed
Sure.
it because I was busy paying money for everything else and I was super
Yeah.
broke. You know what I mean? So little things like that happened. But it's interesting having gone through this once before and kind of seeing the perspective. I'd love to hear your perspective on what's currently happening with masterpieces at this time.
Um, I think the price increase is crazy, and obviously there's
Crazy.
a lot of things that are independent from collecting and has driven this. And ironically, I think it's Dan's insanity of artwork and beauty of it that is allowing it to sustain. Right? If it wasn't, it could not sustain this. And so,
No.
what's changed is just patience, resilience, and acceptance to just let things go, to say
Yeah.
no. Right?
Yeah.
I of course would love to have all the plates and the one of one, but I understand it's most likely it's not realistic for me, right? If I can get a player two, wonderful. But and this happened to me with the medals, Spider-Man, X-Men medal. A couple people came to me with like a one of one beast or something, and they want thousands and thousands, and to be honest, at the time I can say like, well, looking at the market, like I see why you want this. I just don't want to do it. I can't do it, right? I find it's always about equating in your mind what else you could get for that money, right? And when it became like I could get, like Dan or someone, a really famous artist to do something for the cost of a one of one from PMG or something. What am I doing? Like I need
Yep.
to assess what makes me happier. And some people that PMG does make them happier by all means. And so I think I started having that conversation myself, like equating in my mind, would I rather have this or this kind of thing?
I love that. That's absolutely brilliant.
All about patience.
I can't tell you the practice that I've had in the last year and a half, and it happened with the Mando collection,
Yeah.
is writing down what's in my back. Like here's the thing, right? You have to really understand the hobby and you have to do a lot of research because when you start thinking, oh, hey, here's this card that I don't know if I'll ever see, but I'm willing to pay X amount, which is a crazy amount of money for this card if it ever popped up, right? And then you look at something new that came out, like a PMG or
Yeah.
purple from X-Men Metal, and you're like, they want this for this, which is my same threshold for
Mhm.
something that I would instant pay
Exactly.
for this. There's no way I can do this and this, so I have to say no to this. And I feel like people would be a lot happier if they understood more of this hobby so they could go ahead and make their own values on tiering
Mhm.
what card's important to them as opposed to like just being a kid in a candy store and thinking I have to get this otherwise this will never be the same again. I'll miss the most special card in the world, which is barely ever the case. The really crazy stuff, at least the three of us, right? The three of us have really good perspective because we've been here for a while.
Mhm.
We all know crazy stuff.
Yes.
So when we certain prizes of things, we're like, I don't know, because I'm pretty sure if I took this and timesed it 2 or timesed it 1 point or 0.5x, I can go to this person or find this other thing and just grab that, which
Yeah.
I've been wanting for years and will never find. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So how about you, Jake? What's your perspective on all this?
Yeah, I think the one thing I think I've noticed the most in paying attention, looking for B stuff, and I'm always watching. I feel like which is like a weird thing to say, but I'm always watching. I think there's way more character collectors now.
Yeah.
It seems like everybody's really excited to get into character collecting, and because of that, the competition has driven the price up on certain characters.
Mhm.
And I think what's good, and it's mainly good for Dave because of all the money he spends trying to get everything. It just you have to like switch from trying to get all to just what's your favorite.
Yeah.
Like Dave definitely would prefer to have plates from those metal sets than the one of one or the green PMG. So that's what he did, and we did our best to get those, and that's fine. But if you like, there's some awesome PMG collectors and collections, like they're cool. I get it. I totally get it. It's just a
totally
different
get it.
style. And then I think the other thing that's happening, or that people, you have to understand, just because you missed it now doesn't mean you won't get it again later. There's a lot of turnover, and I mean, I have something that I missed out on. It was the 5x7 by Bob Lark and Magneto,
Oof.
and Pankit has it.
Oh
And
yeah.
he's the nicest person ever,
Yeah.
right? I don't bug him. I think I asked him once sometime this year, like, hey, just kind of like kicking the tires on it because he outbid me on it, but I kept track of who has it. And then my thought was like, be nice about it, because if he ever changes his mind and wants to let it go, like, who cares? Like, he knows like someone was interested. I'll pay him very well for it, but it's not like I don't mind that he has it. It's not something I obsess over. But my thought was, if it ever pops up, it's something I do want to get. It's a thing that I miss, and it's totally okay to not have it. I like at least just knowing where it is.
That's the key for me. If I know where it is, and if it's a non-conversational, right? Like Pancak's not like this at all. Pancak's great. He's not like that at all. But like, and I'm not like that either. If someone really likes something of mine, I usually put their name on the back of the card, like in a piece of paper, just so I don't forget, because I'm terrible memory. And I try to remember all the time, which is hard. But I mean, I don't have that much stuff that people want, but you know what I mean. But like, for knowing where something is, kind of has this benefit of being like, I know this person, they know me. It comes up, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's the best case scenario, because most of the 9 out of 10 times you will miss the things you want because they're one of ones. Like dealing with plates, dealing with certain cards, low numbers, whatever, the stuff that's difficult to find, you're just going to miss. And you mentioned something earlier about having patience and stuff, and I want to add this so people know. When a card is purchased by someone who is not, where it's not going to be their forever home, it comes back to you. Always. I've never had a situation where someone bought a surfer and I knew they weren't a surfer collector and they just wanted it, or they want to price it high, or they were thinking of X, Y, Z, whatever decision, or they just liked it in the moment. I really have learned to sit back and be like, I'll find it. It'll get here one way or another. And that's the way it is. You know what I mean? And right now there's this really cool thing happening that you mentioned as well, where there are a lot of Marvel card collectors out there, and a lot of character collectors are emerging. And recently there's Silver Surfer character collectors now. You know what I mean? It finally got there. It finally happened. It wasn't just me and Uribo and, like Rick Ortiz, you know what I mean? And like another person who I don't know. It was, now it's kind of growing, and people are like, well, I need this. I'm going to have this. I got to build up this surfer collection. And I'm so grateful for the Mando thing, because I've had an experience now where it was like, I looked for a high tier character and I realized the insanity of collecting a high tier character, and I'm applying it to the surfer now. And I'm like, what are my personal big items for this collection? You know what I mean? Like, what do I consider big items? Those are the ones I need to have. That's where my focus needs to lie. And that kind of leads me to my next question as we start kind of winding down and exiting this. And Dave and Jake, It has to be something you have. Do not tell anybody something you're searching for. I always warn people of that. Not that you guys don't know that, but I just don't want there to be a situation because this is going to go on YouTube. And we'll start with Dave here. What is something that you consider an essential part of your Beast collection?
It's a great question. Um, I think a printing plate representation from each set that had a printing plate. I'm not talking rainbow, just a representation from each set.
That's my boy.
It's impossible to get all the rainbows because, well, they're still sealed boxes. But representation from each set, I think it makes for a nice display. It's a piece of the history of making that card. And I like any color, so that's
Same.
fine. Obviously, some colors show a little more or less, but I think that's essential. And the other half is a sketch card from each set.
I love that. That's all. That's my answer. Like I love that. I think that's such a key component of it. Um, it's such a nice small way of having a completed character collection. You know what I mean? Because you just have one example. You know what I mean? And you don't need to chase them all. You don't need to do the crazy struggles because I don't know if I ever will do the struggle again of trying to find all four plates to a card because that was a miserable experience. You know what I mean? Like if it happens, but I'll never go out of my way eBay checking every 15 minute type of scenario because that was just insane. So Jake, the same question goes for you, and I know it's going to be slightly different because of sketch cards, but I'm actually really interested because there are key components to a character sketch card collection that I imagine would be targets you want to hit in that collection. You know what I mean?
I have sort of tinkered with going after different things and then abandoned them. Like one of every artist, which I know that's a popular thing to do, or one of every artist, but the set doesn't matter. That's kind of the main thing I have. I go, do
That's
I
cool.
have a Glebe? I don't care what set it's from. Like I know that's like a popular artist. Do I have a good one of that? But then there's some artists that are so expensive. Like I would never like if I didn't have a Fredian 2 panel that Rootleaf helped me get because I couldn't afford it at the time he bought it, and then was like, whenever you have the money, it's yours. And then he just sold it to me for what he paid.
Wow.
I mean,
what a saint.
And then that stuff's worth like 4 times now. So it's just not like that's not worth it to me. There are certain sort of like the Aviles Marvel sketches because he was so big in Star Wars. I have no interest in having a Magneto of his because it's just not too much.
Too much.
I think for me, it's like a visual thing. So I would say if you're a binder person, like what makes a good 9-page? Or if like I put my stuff in display cases, what's a good row?
Yeah.
So like my display case is all messed up because of the break later. I took some stuff out. But I had like rows of Jeff Confer sketches from DC.
Oh, Jeff Confer.
They all kind of match. Or like a row of all of, Batman's villains. Or a row of just Batman and Robin and Nightwing. Like, so they all kind of, like that kind of stuff is what grabs my attention. And that really clicked in with all of our Rick and Morty sketch collecting was I've been bindering them, and then it's every binder page. It's what's the best 9-card representation of that episode. So
Killer.
I'm trying to get something from the opening credits, trying to get a sketch from the ending credits.
Wow.
And then all these sketches from different scenes like throughout the episode, like break it up. And like that's just like fun stuff to chase. So I think if you're a sketch person, it's more of like it's why like when we were going over your Mando collection, I was like, hey, if you slide this here and put that there and add these couple of things, it'll make a good layout.
You guys are saints. Like I don't think people realize, but like, and I've alluded to it before, so I'll have to share pictures now. But like, they are the reason that I'm very happy with my Mando collection because I would show them sketch cards and be like, talking to Greg, talking to Arnie, and then I go to Jake and Dave and I'm like, all right, this is what's available to me. What are your thoughts? Like, do I need this? You know what I mean? How much does this add to the actual collection already? And that's super important to do.
And we would text each other individually outside of the group chat because we were like, he's teetering on getting out of control. Of then like going surfer on this. We need to like help support this being concise because it's not. Those Star Wars guys are heavy hitters.
Oh, they're heavy.
They're the nicest people ever.
So nice.
But you cannot compete with them.
No.
So you have to change, and I think it's important and change how you collect stuff and just pick what you want. Like you wanted that nice booklet, so that's fine, and then you can kind of be more restrictive.
We're losing him. We're losing him. Bring him back. Bring him back. I
Yeah.
love that so much
Yeah.
because it was really a saving grace.
I think Jake touched on something. So his display cases, he's better about this than I am. He rotates. So
Yeah.
every so often,
Beautiful.
he'll put something else. And I want to say this because it's an obvious thing that I feel like many don't, and I don't. Remember to look at your collection, right? Like everyone has a display or their top, but like I have hundreds of these sketches. Like I made a binder, organized it. Just look at it every so often because it makes you take a step back, appreciate what you have, realize what you enjoy. But he's very good about like rotating, and I'll come over
Smart.
and it's a different row, and I'm like, I forgot you had this. So cool. You know, it elicits that emotion again. So like, it's sometimes you forget to look at your own collection.
I love that advice so much. Without, I've been doing it in mine, maybe because you guys told me about it, or I don't even know why I do it, but I rotate my display like once a week because I'm just like, A, it saves you money. B, it puts your collection in perspective. And C, you do the very thing that you bought it, the item for, which is enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
The very thing you wanted to do. And I like putting things away and then bringing them out later too. That's another part of it. I like hiding it away. I like forgetting that I had it. It's like I went into a store and I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot I bought this. This is awesome. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
I've been starting to put things in different spots that aren't like the correct organization, so I can find it and be surprised.
Oh, I love that.
So
That's awesome.
to have random older Marvel, I've thrown a couple of sketches in there just to forget about them. So I go through like a stack of '90s Marvel, and it's like, what is this Bronze Age sketch doing in there? Just to kind of be like, oh wow, you found something fun.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. I mean,
Because it's so easy to forget. So easy.
it's
really
so
is.
easy to forget. And the sad thing too is like I'll see somebody post something from an artist I haven't thought of in a while.
Yeah.
Richard Cox. That was it. I was talking to a friend and they were asking me about an artist I really liked, and I found this surfer. I showed you it. It's amazing. It's like I saw it on a Google search image and I had looked for it for years and it popped up on eBay. No, it lied. Did not pop on eBay. They were selling something else. And I said, "Hey, you have any surfer sketches?" And they happened to have it in there.
Oh,
Like
yeah. Nice.
it was the stupidest, luckiest thing. And surfers flying away from Galactus emblem, and it's really
Nice.
close up, and it's just such a good Richard piece. And it was one of those things where it's like you discover somebody posting something and you're like, oh yeah, that artist. And then you go back to your collection and all of a sudden it feels new. You know what I mean? It's such a good piece of advice as well. Majorly piece of good advice.
Yeah. Dave just thought of something, but yeah, Richard Cox. It's the best Magneto I've ever pulled. Because most of the stuff you don't actually get it out of a box.
Yeah.
Like it's like him pulling the metal out of Wolverine, so it's got glowing kind of metal.
Oh, I think you've shown me this. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's
It's the only one. I think Dave's only ever pulled one B sketch in what 15 years of collecting and
opening packs is not the path to being a character collector. However, for some reason, it feels like it's the path. Right? Like it feels like I have to open this box. How else am I going to get the printing plate or something? And it never happens. Like it
never happens.
It's so rare.
It's so rare.
I did think of something else as a tip as like the curator of Dave's stuff, like finding.
I love it.
Another tip, a thing I've done is I keep a similar card just in case someone only wants to trade.
Yeah.
So like I have a 2016 yellow Black Bolt plate tucked away. I don't care about Black Bolt, just in case someone who has the Beast yellow plate surfaces, they only want to trade. And I'm like, hey, you want a Black Bolt? It's a similar character level. It's the same color, so it's like a fair trade.
Smart.
He does keep a stock of tradable items.
You know, I'm always so bad at that, and I've only done it in recent years. And I've gotten a lot better about it. But when I first started out, I had nothing to trade. And the biggest wall I kept hitting over and over and over again was there was no way to buy because why would they want to sell? Like most of the cats I've met just they don't, money doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
At all. And that happens scary. It happens more often than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been my experience, especially with sketches. Sketches is one of those things where people really don't care about how much they cost.
Yeah.
They will keep it regardless.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So you've seen some images, you've seen some cards. You've met two amazing people, close friends of mine, who I'm so happy I'm friends with. I'm so happy you guys did this with me a second time. My apologies again. I hope you learned a lot. Let me know if you have any questions. Put any questions in the comments. They'll be happy to answer them. All the cards we've talked about, not for sale, not for trade, just so people know. Because I'm starting to have people on who are showing things, and my poor Deadpool collector, I think, got is getting chased down now. So I'm sure it's going to happen to you guys. But thank you all so much. Happy collecting, and again, we'll see you soon. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks.